look, I know we're supposed to film with our back camera, but I can't be bothered because I'm almost positive that if I don't look at this, it's not gonna record the whole way. I'm recording this in real time because I did some journaling and I had my first vocal lesson last week. Shout out to Sudi. And we talked about a lot of things, but the reason I did my vocal lesson was because I was very disheartened after the vocal delivery on my last single, and I kind of talked about it in my last video, or the video I'm gonna upload hopefully before this, but I was just really disheartened with my vocal performance and I wanted to get better, and I knew that vocal performance and just singing in general was where I had the majority of my concerns, and where I needed the most development as an artist, especially an area that I think I needed mentoring in. I needed actual lessons and stuff like that. So I reached out to an artist in Atlanta called Sudi, and she does vocal lessons. And we had our first lesson last week, this past Friday. And for a long time, I knew that my biggest issue was my throat, as in my throat gets really tight before I sing, and that throws all technique out the window. And we talked about it a lot, and I explained to her where my biggest issue was, because we did warm-ups, we practiced diaphragmatic breathing, and we practiced skills and things like that. And for the most part, she was like, you sound good, like your breathing's correct, I can see you engaging your diaphragm. And I would tell her my throat, before the lesson, my throat was already really tight, and I don't talk a lot at work, and so we were trying to figure out why my throat was already like tightening up, like it was sore as if I'd strained it when I hadn't really used it at work like at all. I maybe talked to a coworker for like an hour, but other than that, I had no reason for it to be in pain. So we talked about it, and I talked about my history with singing and how that's kind of where I view it. We talked about my history with singing and how it's where I view some of my biggest weaknesses in, and how I get really scared before I sing mostly. I talked about how I was nervous before my first lesson because I was just so scared of sounding bad. And I say all this to say because I want to say we got to the problem, but as it turns out, the problem is completely psychological. And that's frustrating because I was hoping that the problem was technical based, that maybe there was just air I wasn't putting in the right place, or mouth shapes, or something that I just wasn't getting, and that after a few lessons my technique would get better and my tone would get better, and I would be able to produce the sound that I wanted to without vocal strain. And honestly, even today, so before I filmed this video, I was thinking about practicing one of my songs for a little bit, just to kind of warm myself up into practicing again, and my throat started hurting. Mind you, I've been home almost all day. Haven't been on the phone or anything, haven't been singing or belting or anything like that. Just the thought of practicing had my throat tightening up, and I can feel it, like it hurts, it's like pain, and pain without utilizing my voice at all is very strange. Because right after my lesson with Sudi, I got home and I was really kind of bummed out for a little bit with myself, that I got home and almost instantly, by the time I got home and just settled down, the pain went away. Or I think I even practiced singing in the car on the way home and I felt fine. So it's psychological. And I went back and I looked through my, I did some journaling, and I looked through when I had done the artist way for a little bit, and some of the topics were old monsters. So things kind of that might have happened in your past that influences some of your mindset around your creativity and the things that you do as an artist, whether you're a painter, dancer, writer, etc. And I look back on what I wrote as my old monsters, but then I also rewrote some things that I think apply specifically to singing. And then you're also supposed to write commonly held negative beliefs that kind of fire in your brain when you think about your creativity. So I wrote some that I think about before I sing. And I also did a little research on my own about throat clenching in terms of psychological stress. And I learned a lot, basically things like anxiety, self-consciousness, stress, fear, negative beliefs about singing or perceived difficulty of singing can automatically cause your throat to clench itself or the muscles to clench, and can lead to obviously difficulty with proper vocal technique. So your diaphragm, getting proper air through your mouth shape, breathing before you sing a note, and just overall just being unstable when you sing. And I thought back to a couple things. So I went to a friend's party and we had an open mic. Not an open mic. I went to a friend's party and she had karaoke. And I love karaoke, but for some reason, when I go to karaoke, I'm always amazed at how amazing everyone else sounds on the mic. And every time I get up there, I always sound super shaky. My voice is not clear. Like, there's no tone. It sounds bad. Whereas all these other people sound amazing. And I think it's just the pressure of sounding great at karaoke that makes me tighten up and stress out and get anxious and be afraid of getting up there and just letting loose. And we talked about in my vocal lesson, trying to control your voice to make it sound a certain way often makes it do the opposite. And I thought back to my friend's karaoke, where there's a song that I sing all the time at home with no problems. And I sang it up there and it was so bad. I couldn't get the notes, and I can hear it. I couldn't get the notes right. My voice was cracking. I was just really stressed out and really scared because I felt the pressure of sounding good in front of all these people that I didn't know, that I didn't want to butcher this really great song that I know I can sing. And then when one of my friends joined me for karaoke and we sang together, my voice was a lot better. It came out a lot clearer because I didn't have the fear of being by myself, of embarrassing myself, of sounding bad. And I went through some of my immediate thoughts that go through my head before I sing, and I'm actually gonna read them because I'm not gonna remember them. So the artist way will ask you to write down some of the immediate thoughts that fire off in your brain when you're about to do something creative, whatever that is. And I did some of the thoughts that I remember would come to mind before I sing. And I wrote down, I always screw this up. Here we go, another disappointment. Maybe don't focus on singing. You want to sing, are you sure? Old monsters is where you think about something that might have happened in your life in the past that might have influenced your perceived creativity. And for me, I have a couple key moments, but the biggest one for me was I was confiding in somebody close to me that I wanted to be an artist, like a musician. And that person told me almost immediately that, well, your voice isn't the best. So maybe, you're really good at performing or dancing. So maybe just focus on that. Don't focus on being a singer. That stuck with me a lot because they're a pretty blunt person. They don't pull punches. And so sometimes when somebody is that blunt, I always take their words for being truth. And it's not truth, it's just their opinion. And I always think back to that when I think about myself as an artist, because I'm always hearing, well, you're not that good. And I know singing is my weak point. And to always have, here we go, you're about to, another disappointment, or this is not going to sound good, or this never sounds good in my head before I sing, adds to that anxiety, to that fear, to that stress of already knowing I'm entering into foreign territory, which triggers the fight or flight response and just makes my whole body tense up. and my throat tense up. And even before this, my throat was tensing up. And even now, because singing is just that scary for me. It's such a weak point for me. And it's now interfering with me trying to get better. Like, I now understand that I'm frustrated because I thought if it's technical, I can handle that. Imagine my phone cut out on me like always. So that means I need to speed this up. So basically, as I was saying, every time I'm about to go up to a mic and sing, I already feel like it's enemy territory. I already feel a fight or flight response because in my mind, I'm thinking, here we go again. You're going to be disappointed. Can't wait to get this over with. I'm not as good as everybody that's here. This is going to be bad before I even open my mouth. And really, I think there was only one time or three times where I got up at a mic and just let go, just sang and left it all on the floor. Some of my best performances, I think, all impromptu. Also, just I'm gonna get up here and do what I want because I have something to show. It being psychological is frustrating because that's such a long process of healing. I don't think I can visualize the growth as easy as I can visualize doing my breathing exercises every single day, or running my scales, or positioning my mouth, or my things like that, my airways and stuff like that. That's psychological. Just seems like, this is all on you. Like, this isn't technique, this is just you. And so finding out that this was a psychological problem that was causing all of this hurt a little bit, but I'm glad because at least I can say, oh, my technique isn't trash. I'm getting in my own way and I've got to work on that. So I just wanted to sit and talk about it because singing is a hard place for me, especially when you come across my phone done cut out so many times. I forgot where I even was when I was talking about this, but basically I just wanted to talk about it because I think it's gonna be a little bit of a journey getting over my difficulties and my fears and anxieties that revolve around singing, and I'm gonna try to document it. So I guess this is the proverbial beginning of it. Yeah, I kind of knew. I felt really scared about singing, and I know there are people that know that they don't have the best voice in the world and will just sing anyway and release music anyway, and that's not really what this is about. I'm still going to release music, but I want to figure out how to work my voice so that I like it, so that I'm comfortable saying, this is my voice, this is what it sounds like, and I'm not trying to make it sound like anything else. And I like what it sounds like because it can do this. And that's really my goal. But to get there, I have to let myself be free to let it sound how it sounds. So I'm gonna work on it, and I'm going to do my best to not let my head get in the way of it, because vocal health is important, and the way it strains my voice and the way it I have to be on vocal rest for a while sometimes is not healthy. And just having these instant negative thoughts when I'm about to perform or do something that I love isn't good. I want to develop a healthy, positive relationship with singing, with my voice, and also not have the feeling I had when I released Lose Control, where I couldn't stand the sound of my own voice, or previously another recording session where I was on vocal rest for 3 days after because I was so stressed in the vocal booth that my vocals were straining. I was singing with my diaphragm, or I thought I was, but I was so stressed that my vocals were straining anyway. So yeah, I want a positive relationship with my voice, and I want to love my voice for what it is. And that's going to take a lot of work. And that's okay, because this whole thing is a journey. So yeah, I guess if anyone also feels that way. Ooh, my stomach's growling, and I got curry on the stove because I knew I was going to be hungry after this. But if anyone else, sometimes it feels like singing is the most comfortable area for most people, and where they are uncomfortable is dancing. Whereas for me, that's like, I have no issue on that front. And it's not even like I can't sing, it's just I'm afraid to sing. And so that type of anxiety and fear is causing everything to kind of fall out of place when I get behind a mic or when I'm supposed to perform. And it's such a big part of being an artist that I want to push past it. So before my phone cuts out again, and I think I've said all I need to say, this is the beginning of the journey, and I'm really excited. And yeah, I've got a vocal lesson this week. My next performance isn't for a while, but I think I'm gonna start with singing just at home more and more, getting more comfortable. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, bye.